All right, everybody, we're just going to go ahead and give us a minute here. See all these attendees popping in. Welcome, welcome. In the meantime, go ahead and put in the chat and let us know where you are from. Got a really incredible audience here. Boise, Denver, Potomac. Welcome, 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 everybody. Look at this. Right. Just a minute here. All right. Wow, look at this. Austin, Texas in the house. Hey, Christina. Lisa from Dallas. Welcome from Dallas. I'm currently sitting over here in the South Lake Dallas office visiting as I start my national tour for the 22 best income generating tips. So can't wait to see a lot of this country coming in. All right. So a little bit of there we go. So let's go ahead and get this started. All right. So first things first, I want to introduce myself. My name is Mark Noonerman, one of 12 Compass coaches, and very excited for our third Ladies of Compass panel that we have here. This one is going to be focused on selling luxury. I've got four incredible ladies here with us today. I would love to go around and first things first, just get a nice little introduction going for each one. So first, Elise Barca, I'm going to start with you. So first, please introduce yourself. Where are you located? How long have you been in real estate? And just kind of what's the main focus of your business overall?
Okay. I'm Elise Barca. I have been in real estate for 30 plus years. My primary marketplace is Silicon Valley, and that covers a huge territory. If we narrow it down a bit, I'm on the San Francisco Peninsula. I specialize in four major towns, cities, if you will, and six others. So I don't go way outside my marketplace. If anybody's heard of Atherton, it's often quoted in the Wall Street Journal as the 94027, the most expensive zip code in the country. At any rate, but that is my primary market, Menlo Park, California, 94025, and surrounding areas. Palo Alto, Stanford University.
Excellent. Karen?
Okay. Hi, I'm Karen Kelly, and I'm from New York City. Yay. I've been working in real estate. I thought it was 22 years, but it's actually 21. Can you believe it? So as of this month, and I have grown up in really the beautiful boom in Manhattan. So I've enjoyed a level of and the hills and valleys of real estate in New York City, boy. But from 2002 through today, and kind of little solemn moment because today's 9/11. So I'm I'm remembering that moment for me because I was there and it was intense. And obviously we all care about that, and it's been great for our country, but not to bring us down. I just want, and I just think what's happened down there is so extraordinary. So I just want to say thank you, Michael Bloomberg and Ron Perlman and all of the community down there, because what they've done is just extraordinary. Anyway, and you should all come. But anyway, so I have, and I guess I've been lucky enough to specialize in somehow the world has navigated. I'm in a kind of a mid luxury to high end luxury market in Manhattan, mostly over 5 million. But so I've just I don't know what else I'm supposed to say here, but that's my market, and I really work all over Manhattan. I have a team, and they're fantastic, and I love real estate, but I love New York City. Okay, that's me.
Love it. Elisa?
Hi, thank you, Mark, for having me. Hello, everybody. I'm located in Nashville, Tennessee. I work with both buyers and sellers. I've been selling real estate and mid-luxury real estate for just over a decade now. I focus on two counties in Nashville, Davidson and Williamson, and my clientele is 98% entertainment and relocation buyers from Los Angeles and New York and other major cities. But I work with both buyers and sellers.
Excellent. Ann Perry. Oh, and we cannot hear you.
Will the real Ann Perry stand up?
No, we do not have you on audio, unfortunately.
Uh-oh, you're on mute. Unmute, maybe. Oh,
No, we still don't have you.
that's why we need the other one, I think. Okay.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and keep it moving. We will come back to you, Ann. Not a problem at all. So, and just so everybody knows, you are going to get a recording of this afterwards. So I know some people are going to have to jump, and we completely understand that. So while we go ahead and get Ann going in terms of the audio, I want to kick it off with one of the first questions here. Elise, I'm going to start with you on this. You know, I often say that luxury is a feeling. So what I'd love to hear from you is, how do you personally define luxury?
That's a good question. To me, luxury is in the eye of the beholder. I think luxury is a personal thing, very much in the eye of the beholder. I sold a property. By the way, I represent both buyers and sellers. I was representing a buyer on a property in that 9427 special zip code. And the gentleman had made a great deal of money in the tech world. And interestingly, he was living in an apartment when he found the house, when we found the house that was going to become his forever home. He loved everything in it. And what we ended up doing, because to him, it was the most wonderful home in the world. We found out the name of the design team that had decorated the property. He left with his toothbrush, a suitcase. He left his apartment with a suitcase, toothbrush, basic essentials, moved in and literally recreated the house with the help of the designer, down to $100,000 Oriental rug. I mean, he literally duplicated the interior. And anyway, it's a happy ending. I think ultimately we need to find out what the buyer thinks luxury is and not assume. I think that's an important point.
Appreciate that. Ann Perry, do you want to go ahead and see if we've got the audio fixed for you? We cannot hear you. Possibly sign out and sign back in. Sometimes that's a good refresh. Karen, I'm going to go ahead and kick that former question over to you. You know, how do you personally define luxury?
Well, I think we've thought about that a little bit. And I think luxury to me it's more than just the presence of opulence or material possessions. I think, it's the experience. And I also think, honestly, luxury is a state of mind. It doesn't really have to come with great wealth. It's really a mentality, but it's somebody who has a sense of refinement, and maybe there's a little indulgence in there. But I think luxury can be found in small places in our lives. We can a walk, it can be a great luxury. A fabulous conversation, a meal with good friends is luxury. I think so. It's appreciating things that give us beauty and a sense of fulfillment. That's what I decided luxury is. Thanks, Mark, for the question.
Love that, of course. Elisa.
Yeah, I like what you said, Karen. It's true. I mean, it's a luxury. Is it a luxury to even have your health? But when it comes to real estate and lifestyle, there are so many different interpretations, and it can vary from different cities, markets. But to me, Luxury is exceptional quality, it's attention to detail, it's superb craftsmanship, it's comfort, it's exclusivity. That's what it means to me.
Perfect. All right, Anne, let's give it a shot again.
Okay, I'm back, right? Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry,
please,
everybody.
please introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you? All of the things.
Good morning. I'm in Honolulu, Hawaii. I was born and raised here. I've had a wonderful opportunity to live in the majority of the resorts throughout the state. And so I have an interesting perspective. I can bring a statewide perspective to clients. And has been a really cornerstone of my business, whether it be with Compass or with Coldwell Banker, where I was previously. And love living in the islands. And it's going to your question on luxury. I agree with what everybody has said. And, luxury is individual to each person. And a question that I try to find out with my luxury clients is, I ask them, how do you define luxury? What is luxury to you? And in asking that question and listening to what they have to say, I can sort of then say, well, what about, it's easier for me to show them properties that will meet their definition. But I do agree with everything you all also have said. This luxury is a lifestyle.
I love that. So, Anne, I'm going to keep it with you then. So, what differences would you say you have found between luxury and non-luxury clients? I mean, is it wealth? Is it industry? Is it a discerning eye?
That's a great question. And what I like to, and people say to me, I want to be in the luxury real estate market. And I said, and it's so different. And it's not any different. A luxury buyer and a buyer of a $60,000 condo, we all put our clothes on the same way, one day at a time. And so they are equally as important as anybody else. But luxury is, so that 60,000 buyer, luxury for them is maybe to have 2 bathrooms. But I don't know if I answered your question, but it's important to not lose touch of, as a real estate agent, if you're doing 100 deals at $100,000, you're working harder than the luxury agent who is doing maybe 1 or 2 or 3 deals making that. So to get into luxury is a big step. There is no fairy godmother or godfather who's going to wave a wand over you. It's called hard work. It's called talking to the Karens, the Elises, and the Elises of the world, and getting that market knowledge and being able to pivot. And your desire to learn can never quit, because that gets you into luxury.
I absolutely love that and agreed. Karen, what about you? What do you find, differences between the luxury and non-luxury clients?
So I'm stuck on one part of this because obviously the financial capability of a luxury client, they have higher income, they have resources that in turn helps them navigate in a more luxury way. Whereas I think people who are non-luxury, I'm not sure I love the terms because I feel like it's not fair, but non-luxury are people who are probably more interested in functionality and price. And so, but I also want to say, I think even people who don't have a lot of money might have a luxury mindset, and in which that while they may not be able to have the castle, they can have the cottage, and they'll make it as sweet as possible in very and truly luxury terms. But I guess, what is it? Champagne taste with a beer pocketbook or something like that. I'm not sure, but I really think so. That's a little problem for me. But in essence, I think that luxury, if we're really thinking about real estate and buyers, I think that luxury buyers have experienced, great, their experience has been exceptional in the service. They've had, they understand, they've learned a lot about architecture, about design. They understood, they've kind of accumulated this mass knowledge that brings them, which I think brings them to the ilk of what a luxury buyer is. And that's the very high end. And so they're discerning by far more than a non-luxury client. And I think those people expect really great service. and they deserve it in a way, sort of, but because that price tag is pretty awesome. But I think those would be the differences. To say that there's a difference in the mindset, that's one thing, but in the money, that's another thing, and that's where I would allocate those differences. Somebody who's looking for a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side versus somebody who's going to buy a 4-bedroom apartment at 220 Central Park South. They've been different places. They've seen a lot. Their viewpoint, their perspective is vastly different, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Okay. Elise?
It's an interesting question. I was chuckling over champagne taste and a beer budget. At any rate, I think, all right, I'm in an area where, all right, do we have old money? Old money means that it's a multi-generational money that's been in the family for a long time. We also have a great number, far more, of people for whom wealth is new. It's very new.
Yeah.
And they may have gone from, I don't know, tuna casseroles or something to suddenly having lots of commas in their bank account. And so it doesn't necessarily, the amount of money doesn't necessarily equate to understanding what luxury is or what is luxury. And so for somebody who's 30 years old, who's just struck it rich, having a great basement area that holds his Peloton and all of his other athletic, whatever, and a pool table may be just the best thing ever. Okay. It just depends. But to me, luxury becomes more geography. We can't quantify it by dollars. I'm in a market, one of the markets that I serve is land itself, the house is free. I mean, the land itself on a quarter acre could be 3.5 million. Or it could be in another area, 7 to 10 million for the land and the house is free. Okay. So to me, it's really a geography question.
Okay. Elisa?
I think it's all of that, wealth, industry, discerning eye. My luxury clients tend to have a lot of flexibility with price range. They're very well versed in design. But, with all that, that means that they tend to have more patience also with the process. Currently, I have a high net worth client who has a gorgeous home, loves design. He's looking for a home in the $6 million range, and he can take his time to do that. He's in no rush and finding that right house. And in the Nashville market, what is luxury today? Price point, it used to be 900,000. It used to be $1 million. Now we're up in 2 million. Now it's looking more like 3 million and plus. So, my luxury clients seek properties that are exclusive. Privacy is a big thing for them. They like one-of-a-kind unicorns, and premium quality, uniqueness, and they value brands.
Okay. Yeah, it's a really good point, just because every market is different and what's considered luxury in one pocket is going to be completely different depending on where you go, right? In some places it's $10 million for a piece of land, and in other places $1 million gets you the biggest house on the hill. So it's always going to be different. But we've talked a lot about client experience, and I'd mentioned luxury is a feeling, and you think about the Four Seasons, right? You think about the treatment you receive. You could stay at the Days Inn, but you're going to go to the Four Seasons. So when we think about brand, one of the questions now that I have is, what do luxury clients care most about in transactions, right? Ann Perry, I'm going to kick that one to you to start us off. You're on mute, Ann.
I'm mute. And I've got Lorenzo here next to me, so I won't do this right. I think they expect your attention. They expect accessibility, communication. Is that what you're asking? What they want out of a transaction?
What do luxury clients care most about in transactions?
that you, number one, are representing them and are focused on their expectations, managing their expectations, and also asking them right up front, what are your expectations? How do you want to be communicated to? You know, that is important. You have to know communication's key. That is what's going to blow a deal. You know, you have to know what they want, then you can manage those expectations and go through the escrow process. But before you even get in there along the way, you kind of want to educate them on what the process is, because the newer young luxury, for example, they haven't gone through the process as much. As Elise has a perfect example of that, where the commas just kept getting added to their funds to purchase. So you have to really focus on them. I had all this written down. You want service accessibility, and you want to make sure your team is on it and that you have a good team behind you, that being escrow or title or your own team, or you just have to be on it and with them 100% of the time.
I love that. Elisa, I'm going to swing it over to you for that.
You said Elisa, me? Okay, yeah. They want an expert in the market. They expect zero stress and for us to take care of everything. They expect to have their agent to have a Rolodex of the best photographers, videographers, stagers, landscapers, attorneys. They expect exceptional service.
Elise Barca.
Well, Mark, I think there are three things mainly that a luxury buyer is looking for. I think they're looking for location. There's the old adage about keeping up with the Joneses. These people are the Joneses for all practical purposes. And so I think that location is important, how their identity often becomes, as it is for most people, their home, whatever. Privacy and security are extremely important. And what I see are buyers who they may, if they're buying, which they typically do in a trust, it is not in their name. It may be in the, the Dancing Donkey Farm Trust, whatever it may be, but it's not going to have their name attached to it. There could be, in this area, San Francisco, a law firm that might represent a very high-end client, and they handle everything. So it's truly nobody knows. And we also have NDAs, NDA, a non-disclosure statement, basically. You cannot, when you sign it, you cannot share information about an individual. And so I think all of those things together, plus, of course, I agree with everyone, the attention to detail, the service, all of those things, but I think ultimately it's privacy and security.
I love that. Quick reminder for everybody in the chat, feel free to leave questions. We are going to try to leave about 10 minutes at the end, 5 to 10 minutes to answer any of the questions with any of the extra time that we have. Karen, going with you on this. So in terms of, what exactly do they care most about that you have found at these higher price points, your luxury clients?
Yeah. Okay. Your expertise. You know what you're talking about. You know where, when they, you listen. It's very important. Listen, listen, listen. They will tell you who they are, where they want to be. And then because I'm an expert in Manhattan, not in San Francisco, not in Nashville, and not in Hawaii, but in Manhattan, I can discern where they want to be and I can figure it out. And I hear what, I listen to them. They're oftentimes, these are CEOs of major corporations, or just people at the top of their game in entertainment that I have too as well, and politically as well. So they don't have time. So they're looking for you to cut to the chase. This is what I want. This is who I am. Help me find it. And brief me on these neighborhoods. I want to know what am I looking at? Who are these people? And that's my job. And that's what I do. And they, in short order, I'm happy to say I'm able to find that for them. And that is, it's really kind of a wonderful thing. All these years, you are securing an arsenal of information that makes you the expert, that gives you so much to be able to, and it's because of, I sort of Anne's point, is because of, our desire and our love of what we do. We are experts. We go to see things. We see every open house. We will show up. We're it's, the Woody Allen line, show up is all you need to do, right? But I think it's understanding all the different levels that sort of are check boxes for people who are worldly, which generally equate with a luxury buyer, right? So you have to know a lot about maybe art or music or, politics, probably in some fashion, not too much because we want to get out of that. But, designers and architects and that kind of thing. But, you want to have all of that gravity to bring to bear for them. And it shows them that you have a sense of kind of connection with the area, and then they trust you. That's the bottom line.
I love that. And there's a question here, just how do we level up our service? And it sounds like we just continue saying it, where it's the knowledge, it's the connections, it's the confidentiality, it's all of and it takes time, right? So folks say, I want to be luxury. It takes a lot of time, right? And Perry, one big thing here is we want to talk more on not just the what, but the how, right? And as your coach, you always hear me talk about, brand perception, maintaining a luxury brand perception, how you're being perceived. So what steps do you take to ensure that your brand reflects luxury?
That's it. What's really interesting is that your brand is everything. It's brand who you are, and brand comes from, as at least Karen just said, is having that multi-dimension. God, I can't even talk. I did a canoe race yesterday for 5 hours, so I'm sorry, guys. I can hardly move, and I can hardly talk. But you have to look at everything that you're projecting. What does your brand look like? What does your presence look like? And social media has been a game changer to real estate, especially, and you have to look at how you post on social media. So speaking to Karen's point, post perhaps being at, an art exhibit or some type of charity event, but showing that you're a multi-dimensional real estate agent. Post your properties, maybe an architectural picture. Do not post yourself drinking margaritas in Mexico, standing on a table. You want to project luxury, project your product, project you, how you work, your knowledge, your market knowledge, talking about having that encyclopedia knowledge. And how do you get that? And that's showing up, as you guys just said. And, people will ask you at a cocktail party, how's the market? Make sure that you have a good answer. Don't say, oh my God, we're in COVID and nobody's buying. That's not true. Just say, the market's great. There are different things, different markets. Like Hawaii, the market went crazy with COVID. So be positive, be energetic, but be respectful.
I love
Be
that.
the person they want to work with, and always be complimentary of your competition.
I love that. Elisa.
I'm very authentic with my branding. It comes very natural to me. I just share what I know best. But when I moved to Nashville, I moved over 10 years ago from Los Angeles. I didn't know anybody. I knew a few people. All my marketing was social media, and not many people were doing it in Nashville at the time. I was very influenced by a lot of my Los Angeles friends and realtor friends. And anyway, so, that completely built a referral network for me. So I am a strong believer in social media, whether you like it or not. I think it's crucial because a lot of my referrals came from that, and that's how I built my business. And sharing market knowledge, sharing luxury homes on photos, talking about what just hit the market. Know your prices. I know Mark always talks about that. Know the neighborhoods, know the price per square foot in those luxury neighborhoods, know luxury design trends, the local luxury builders, interior designers, and even talk about new fine dining or any dining in your market, or shopping, just luxury lifestyle.
I love that. Elise?
As far as brand perception, everything that I have done is consistent. It's simple. I think it's graphically pleasing, and it's a consistent message. And it doesn't matter whether it's print media, social media, whatever. It's always a very, I think what I would call a very tasteful message. But graphically, it's always simple, clean. I don't know. That's just kind of my look. And I agree with all of you. I think our ears are probably our most important asset. To listen, but also to follow trends. And as my poor husband knows, I am an absolute magazine junkie when it comes to anything that is, online or in print on anything design wise. But I think it is important to follow trends. And I just think I think it's important to be current.
Perfect. And Karen, what about you? Brand perception.
Was that brand? Oh, okay. So I think, not sure, but I think knowing your clientele and who you're speaking to, who you want to speak to, maybe not who you're speaking to, because you're going to speak to a lot of people. I think that's really important and essential to sort of understanding where you want to go. And I also think aligning your brand with other influential partners can help you in your luxury positioning. And that means Elisa said, the architects or interior designers. And I think those are key players to sort of connect with. So that's very important in my opinion. And I do believe if you can get it more in person, that would be better. But I totally agree with the digital platform. It's here to stay. So I think we need to, storytelling. In my brand, I do a lot of videos we have Taxi TV in New York City, and I do a couple of videos, and we're doing a couple more, but they're really a story. And the story isn't about me. The story, the hero of the story is New York. And I don't know if you've seen it yet, Alyssa, but anyway.
I've seen it. I think it's fabulous.
Thank you. So it's cool because I'm really not putting myself in that. What I want to say is that New York is my hero in a lot of ways. And it's such an incredible city. I was drawn there as a girl, I was an opera singer and actress and whatnot. But the point is that I did that, and I came and like so many other people, and I cannot tell you how many times I get a phone call, like on people calling me from the cab. I just saw your video for the 100th time and I love it. But it's because New York it's not about Karen. It's not about, oh, I've sold this and guess what? Here's my listing. It's more about, I want to tell you why New York is so powerful. And I think that resonates with people. More than, not that the other people, and I have a few other broker friends that do the same thing. They get gigs, they're doing jobs. I mean, they get calls. I'm sorry, not gigs. They get calls, and that's my music days. They get calls, and and it's kind of, and they're making money off of that. But it's more, how do I want to associate myself, and who am I with, and it's fascinating because it's not necessarily tangential in the sense that that is going to hit somebody. No, they see it, they remember your name, they associate it with a feeling, which is high end and luxury and positive, in so many ways, and then they call you but not even really understand why. Does that make sense? So I think that that's, for me, branding is, and associating with other people. So I've got different people in that that are that are emblematic of New York City. I'm very, I'm bullish New York girl, so that's what I'm doing. Okay.
I appreciate that. I love it. Elise, going back to you, so we've talked about a lot of really good things, but luxury transactions, they tend to reflect big price tags. And often you'll find some obstacles involved in these transactions. So what obstacles do you see with these transactions mainly?
Oh, I never have any obstacles, Mark. Not. Okay, the first one. Show me the money. Just because there are a lot of commas in the bank account doesn't mean that the money will show up. And this is particularly, I have found this even this year to be particularly true. Where is the money coming from? And there are countries, I'm thinking China specifically, but getting the money out and depending on where it is. And so I think that's extremely important. The second one is, okay, for sure, money, show me the money. Ego can get in the, oh wait, before I even do ego, stocks. Meta, Facebook Meta, not that long ago, had a 25% drop in their stock. Do you think that possibly affected any transactions if the money is coming from stock? Yeah. So I think it's really important to know where the money's coming from. And then the third thing that I have found is ego. And often when there is a great deal of money involved, there on occasion can be a great deal of ego. And so when someone says, for example, well, it's the principle of the thing, that is my red light that the transaction could be in trouble, because that has been my experience. When ego gets involved, it can be a problem. So those are my big three.
Okay. Elisa?
I think what Elise says. I also think, or I've experienced that luxury homes, big price tag homes can sit on the market longer. So having patience, also too, they come with at times unique features, which cause them to sit longer. And it's about finding the right buyer for that distinctive property. It can be a challenge. So I'd say patience is the name of the game.
I love that. Anne?
All very good points, and I think the money one is epic. But the external environment, I want to piggyback on that. I mean, let's go back a few months when we saw the banks collapse, and that caused a major shockwave and a lot of changes. And I know in Hawaii it impacted 2 deals I had going. And I think patience is great, and you also need to be able to, when you get those obstacles, take a deep breath yourself and don't react until you think, because the way you're going to manage those obstacles is being calm and looking for, which is the path to go. One thing which is down the list is the other agents you're dealing with, because those other agents may have their egos, or those other agents may not be as experienced, or perhaps are more experienced and have a very strong opinion on how a transaction should run. Speaking of what Elise talked about earlier, NDAs, I'm in a situation now where the agent I'm presenting an offer to, even though they've known me for 40 years, wants to know who the buyer is. That's an obstacle to him, not to him, not to his seller, but to him. And that has presented itself as an obstacle. And we all know that our biggest asset is our black book. Or I love the fact that the youngest person on this call, Lisa, you call that a Rolodex. Did you ever work with, I mean, I thought that's great. I always call a Rolodex and someone says you're showing your age, but thank you for doing that. That was cool. But dealing with the other agents and trying to, I mean, did you have one?
I used to. I mean, like the ones that you would turn and the papers would flip.
I mean, I wish I still had one. I mean, all this stuff of being on a computer, that's an obstacle. The days when I started in this business, the least were in this business, everything was on paper. And so that's an obstacle, is dealing with, is your computer working, as it was this morning? But getting back to where I was going is that you've got the money, you've got the egos, but you also are dealing with the other agents and how you deal with them. And sometimes you've just got to suck it up and be nice and, try to figure out a way to work with them, because those agents can make or break that deal. And so it's creating those relationships. That goes back to what we said earlier. The better your relationships are with the agent community, that obstacle will decrease in terms of a problem. And you go back to the money and the egos and what about lack of inventory? That's been a major obstacle in the luxury market. If you take the big island of Hawaii right now, in the resort of Kukio, there's one listing or two listings, and one's at 22 million, another one's over that. So inventory has been an obstacle, and Hawaii more so. We're an island. We can't build another golf course or water feature or things of that nature. So I think that inventory is an obstacle also.
Okay. Anne, I want to stay with you here because, you always hear me talk about unicorn properties, right? Unicorn properties, they don't have comps. And so in the luxury market, it's one of the things of just, lots of folks talk about getting into luxury, but it's a different ballgame when there are no comps. So when you're talking with sellers, when you're talking with buyers, when you have to price a unicorn property, how does that look? What does that look like?
Well, first of all, I sit down with a vodka tonic and I figure out what I'm going to say. But I give it, or sit down with your water or your milk, whatever. But I do a lot before I meet with a seller. Let's say a seller's called me on a property. Before I make that appointment, before I go and actually sit with them, I will go back and look at comps. Maybe our market in Hawaii, it's always been an upward trend, but we've had the ups and downs like everybody else. And not only do I look at the market going back, but I also look at where they're coming from in terms of their perceptions of market activity. Where have they come from? But first of all, do the research and see if there's been another unicorn sale, even if I have to go back 5 or 7 years. And then look to, in my particular case, look to the rest of the state. Because, for example, if you go back to 2021, and 2020, Hawaii prior to that had very few sales. The state had very few sales over 10 million. So we might have, I don't know, in a good year, maybe 15 or 20 for the whole state. In 2021, we had over the MLS sales, that doesn't include the private, we had over 80 sales, over $10 million. So all of a sudden you had this eruption of activity. So you have to look at what the state's doing, not just your particular or maybe your neighborhood. You have to go out of your neighborhood and say, where else is there a comp that will help support this? And then you get into cost per square foot. So somebody sold something for 20 million, and you have to look for other creative ways to do it, because when you sit down with that seller, you want to be able to say, look, I believe in your property. This is why I believe in it, but this is what we're going to be facing. And this is how we're going to look at those objections and how we manage, how we build your value. Always taking any objection, like a price objection, and saying, why is that property worth that amount of money? Is it because it's on this individual cove and you have this great view? Yes. And so you've just got to really be prepared, but also letting the seller know, look, we're going to set a new record here, and I'm here to do that with you. I believe in your property. I believe in you. And we're looking at these benchmarks, and we're looking at where we want to go. And your property has to be perfect. Everything has to be right. A buyer that is involved, let's say I'm representing a buyer, And they don't want to be the first guy. They have the herd mentality. They want somebody else to spend $45 million in a market that's only had 3 sales in its history. So you have to be able to let them buy that get out of your own way. And if they want to buy it and you can justify, you can't justify it, but you have to counsel them that, do you know you're going to be setting a record? Does that make sense? In other words, when you have that, they're buying the unicorn, it's one thing. When you're selling the unicorn, it's another thing. But you have to know and be confident before you talk to these people what you're going to tell them. Because if you don't have that knowledge and you don't have that wide expanse, you're sunk.
Yeah.
You might as well pack it up.
Okay. So I'm gonna pivot us here actually. Elise, I'm gonna go with you on this. Confidentiality is a big part of luxury sales, right? Loose lips sink ships. This is something everybody should be aware of. And as you talk about NDAs, so how do you protect confidentiality, particularly when some agents actually will continue pushing for the details?
That's a really good question.
Gotcha.
You did. Okay, maybe loose lips. Loose lips sink ships indeed. I'm segueing here just briefly. I was chosen to be a listing agent for a property that and I after I had this signed listing agreement, I asked the people why they chose me. And they said, well, the other agent that we spoke with, that we interviewed, said, oh, yes, I was involved with this property. And oh, yeah, it was a really nasty divorce. And then, yeah, well, and that property, yeah, she left him and, went on and did this. And oh, yeah, and the child had a real drug problem. And loose lips sink ships. And all these people could think of was, what is that agent going to say after they work with us?
Mm.
So I don't think I could stress enough confidentiality. It's that important. If an agent pushes, and we're all, agents love to share information. I mean, most agents say, oh yeah, there are times when we cannot. We simply cannot. And the response that I would have would be, and I have had actually, is simply, I'd love to help you. I'd love to tell you, but I can't share that information. Oh, but Elise, I won't tell anyone. I would love to tell you, but I can't share that information. Oh, come on, Elise. You've known me for blah, 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 blah. I'd say, gosh, do you want me to call your manager? In other words, just stop. We can't do it. Okay. It's signed. It's legal. Can't do it. And that it's as simple as that. All they need to know is that the money was green. It showed up. Everybody's happy. Doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
End of subject.
I love that. So now I want to pivot us. Karen, luxury agents generally want to connect with other luxury agents. So how do you connect? Are referrals a big part of your business? And then also, how do you choose referral partners? One thing I always talk about, and all of it's when you're in the luxury segment, you want to know other luxury players around the country. It's a different sandbox, but it's also the client care. It's all the things that we've been talking about for the last 50 minutes. So with that in mind, what do you think?
Good question. So I think referrals are so important to us, right? And that's why we're all here today listening to this webinar. And we're hoping to, all of us are hoping to work with one or all of you at some point. How great. But I do think it's a great way to expand your network and your high-end clients. But you want to focus, and I think Elise said this early on, location, location, location. So I really want somebody who is expert in their location, specializes in the luxury market, and has a sound track record. You know, that's so important. And they have a deep understanding, but also I want them to have, they share kind of my values or, uh, you know, the way I like to do business, which is multi-tiered, like many levels, as Anne was commenting on, like having, you know, just somebody who's more, it's not just real estate, it's having a world view. So I like to talk to the referral brokers. I do not want to get a bad score. I've been lucky enough to been referred, you know, several billionaires from California and Florida. And thank God, you know, I mean, we had long chats before I took over, and thank you. Everything went smoothly because we were all on the same page. But that's what matters. I really think it's you want to have a positive word of mouth and a great reputation and credibility. That's how I go for it.
I love that. And Perry, how about you? How do you connect and what do you look for?
I look for the best person for the client. And I try to, in other words, you have different clients, different personalities, and different talents. And I look for the person, I do agree with everything that was just said, the person who has the same energy or the same values and confidentiality and respect for their clients. Because I want to make sure that when I send a client somewhere that they are getting the service levels that they expect, because a bad referral is a bad reflection on myself. So referrals are very serious. When you refer to somebody, you do want to have those conversations. Do they have enough time? Is this an area they know? You know, is this a good fit for you? So I try to look at that first. And I think getting to know people at the various events we go to and the consistency of seeing people will give you a good understanding of who has that market knowledge. You know, because you want that person who has that same passion that you have about the business, because that is so important. And someone who is in the business full time, that is committed to real estate, that doesn't have 5 or 6 other jobs. You want that person who knows the market and in the business.
I love that. You know, I was on Robert and I did a one-on-one fireside chat last Thursday, and his last point before we hopped was, don't post that you're in Italy for 3 weeks.
Never.
People want somebody who's engaged, they're in the business, they're full time. And if you're showing you're all over the place, that can ultimately backfire. We have 6 minutes left. So I do have one question I want to go around to each one of you. Elisa, I want to start with you. What advice do you have for those wanting to break into the luxury segment and reach your level of success?
Educate. Learn the market, learn the luxury lifestyle. If you're into wine, if you're into golf, whatever you know, moves you, but educate yourself. Know the neighborhoods, know the prices, do open houses, shadow a luxury agent, meet the luxury agents. And again, the builders, you want to know what you're talking about when you're talking to people. You got to fake it till you make it, right? So, knowing the interior designers, any of those local luxury people in your area, know them, learn.
Okay. Elise?
I agree completely with Elisa, and I'm going to add one more thing, and that is, don't judge a book by its cover. I was a brand new agent long ago, but a brand new agent, and I was with my husband. We were out, who was not in real estate at the time. We were out looking at high-end properties in a woodsy area, beautiful area, horse property area. And there was a fellow who was ahead of us. He was really scruffy looking, okay? And he was driving kind of a scruffy car. The agent spent all of her time talking to me and my husband, but did not talk to the fellow. When we left, my husband turned to me and said, that agent just made a huge mistake. And I said, why? And he said, she spent all her time talking to us, but the person who had the money to buy that property, she ignored. And I said, how do you know? And he said, that was Neil Young, Sales Nash and Young. And indeed, he was looking for a home in Woodside. He already had one and was looking apparently for a larger one. And so, gosh, never judge a book by its cover. That's never assume that people are wearing designer handbags and shoes and blah, blah. And if they're not, they are not credible, because that just isn't the case.
100%. Awesome. Karen, how about you? What advice do you have?
Well, I think you guys have all said it, so I'll just reiterate. But boy, I do love that story, because I have to tell you, at least I sold to a kid an apartment, and she came in with a backpack. You know, she was a kid looking at a $7 million apartment with her friend, and they were coming in. They were students at Columbia. It was so cool, and I was like, "All right, let's do it." Boom, come on in, you know. And I did the showing, and it was she was one of the Pritzkers, and she had $500 million in her pocket and bought the apartment sight unseen basically that day. So and I've seen others. We could all share stories, because there's so many, right? But so anyway, that's kind of a funny one. Anyway, I would say that what are we talking about? Breaking into the business? That's what we're talking about? Okay. Is that right? All right.
Yeah, well,
So, I liked everything everybody said. I think you've got to know everything you can, and you have to be passionate and dedicated, and have authenticity. Show that to people, because when we were all of us starting, I was a newbie too, and I faked it till I made it. And I remember taking people out and going, I took out, when this was back in the days when it was through the New York Times, and I took out buyers, and they were so great, but they didn't know that they were my first buyers, and I sure hell wasn't going to tell them, right? So we went out, and I like, oh, there's this electrical box, and I'm like, what's that? But okay, no worries. So we're moving along. Anyway, my point is that there is a part of that is in play in the beginning, but you have to be a fast study and learn and soak up everything you can. I mean, seriously, read the trades, get on the real deal. If you don't watch Urban Digs, that's a mistake. And that's in New York maybe, but all these things you should be doing. Like, it should be your morning occupation, is reading. And by the way, not just real estate, read the paper. Know who's in society, know who's doing the deals, read the Wall Street Journal, understand who's in business. This is a high-end luxury, so you want to know who the players are. And if I were you, I would get on masterclass, because I love it, and do masterclass, because there are all these incredible, people who have made it in the business world, because those are that's who you want to be with. And if it could be for Alyssa, it could be, obviously it could be, musicians and stuff, or behind the music scenes. And for Elise, it's obviously Silicon Valley, and my God, it's everybody who wants to come to Hawaii. So, but I just think it's like that, all of that you just make 2 hours in the morning, make that your day, make that your morning, and just sort of sift through everything and build. The knowledge will build, and you will be an expert at some point. That's all.
Ann Perry, take us home. What advice do you have?
There are no shortcuts in this business,
That's for sure.
and you have to show up. You need to, as you just said, make that time. And we all faked it. We made it. But when you are in the process of faking it, make sure that you give right information, because your buyers or your sellers are educated. So when you're at that event and someone said, how's the market? If you don't know the price, just say approximately it was somewhere just over 10 million, or somewhere just north of something, so that you are still speaking as if you had knowledge. But as a young agent, I went to every single broker open I could. And I went right up to those ladies in my days with the big hair and the St. John suits and dripping in jewelry. And I was a young agent. And I said, my name is Ann Perry, and I'm so excited to meet you. I love your listings. And I kept doing that and doing that and doing that, so that when I wrote that offer, I wasn't that person that said, who is this person? They have a new real estate number. They go, So go to those agents. Don't be scared of them. They aren't going to bite you. And talk to them and make relationships with them. And so that is huge. And on the fake it, and the other thing too is that going back to all this, I had a lady walk into, I was on a project, my first high-end sale was the project. Lady walked in with a crochet bikini. She was 85 in high heels, and her bikini with her cover up covered in sand. The big agents said, it's your up. She didn't buy one. She bought 4 condos at $4 million. 4.
Yes.
So very true. Neil Young, this very wealthy woman, she hit oil out of the floor in her Canadian house, came bubbling up. But be honest, be truthful, be ethical, be respectful, and keep showing up and know your market and be able to pivot so that if somebody says, I really don't like anything in the range you showed me, what's the next range up? Be ready, be prepared, and show up and look like a real estate agent. That doesn't mean if you're on a golf course, wear golf clothes. Don't show up in an Escada suit when you're going to a ranch, because if you get in a truck, this has happened, you could split your dress open. So be smart and be real.
Awesome. Listen,
That was a bit of a visual.
I'm the luckiest coach ever. I
It
love
wasn't my dress.
We
I
love you.
love you
Love
guys.
you.
And thank you to everybody who joined us. We are going to send this recording out along with our panelists' contact information. Feel free to make connections. And until then, everybody, be well.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Bye, ladies.
Bye,
Thanks,
ladies.
everyone.